Hey people, it is Thursday, October the 9th. It is 4:53 in the afternoon and about 13 degrees Celsius. And it also happens to be John Lennon's birthday today, so happy birthday to John, Beetle John. And I'm on Queen's Park,
Wait, how do you stop?
Crescent West here. Looking into the campus of the University of Toronto. Still quite green. The colors are starting to come out on the trees. I'll probably come back once the fall colors are in full effect and do an actual campus walk. But for this one, I'm actually going to be heading over to Philosopher's Walk nearby and heading up to Bloor Street, and then I'm going to take a walk up St. George Street north of Bloor. And eventually I'll make my way, I think, onto Hazelton Avenue, which might be the most beautiful residential street within the boundaries of downtown Toronto, arguably. I think it's in the running. I'm looking into Queen's Park itself. Give it a few more weeks and we'll be looking fully autumnized. Still very green and summery here. We've had summer-like weather up until just a few days ago here in the city. For a second I thought I'd have to cross the street, but no, we have a pedestrian walkway. This just popped up recently. This construction wasn't here last time I walked through the area. About a week ago or so. And I think my cold is finally going away. I'm not quite normal, but I'd say I'm a good 90% of the way there. So I just felt like taking a walk around some beautiful parts of the city today within the confines of downtown. Away from all the tall buildings for the most part. And the U of T area is definitely one of the most beautiful parts of downtown. As is Yorkville, which we'll be passing partially through when we walk along Hazelton. Just looking towards Yorkville right there. Of course, we'll be getting close to some tall buildings once we're over that way. Here is Philosopher's Walk. I'll have to come back here also a bit later once all the leaves have started coming down. I guess they've already started coming down, but this area gets completely covered in leaves when autumn is at its peak. Got Trinity College. I've always thought it looked like Hogwarts from that angle. I hear construction noises up that way. Oh, it sounds like they're tearing something down.
No, it's actually hill all lowercase now.
It's like, God.
I can't see what they're doing, but I can certainly hear what they're doing. And you got the Royal Ontario Museum over on that side.
There comes
Maybe you like this hot one.
The old historic side of the museum here. It's a pretty huge building. I think it's by far Canada's biggest and most well-known museum.
It's snowed in Dunwoody.
And that was Philosopher's Walk. We emerged onto Bloor Street. Looking east. Yeah, it's just a quick walk over to St. George.
Pull your loyalty thingy.
I just thought I'd walk along the part of St. George north of the U of T campus. I haven't done that in a while. It's just a residential street, but it's a mixture of beautiful old century homes and apartment buildings of various ages. Some mid-rise, some high-rise. And here's Varsity Stadium. At this time of day, it's always busy along this part of Bloor Street, but in the evenings, it quiets down quite a bit. But the U of T campus is literally right beside us. And that's a new building being constructed entirely out of timber. I think it's one of the tallest timber constructed buildings in all of Canada, coming in at about 14 stories, I believe. Check out some views here of the cityscape. Pretty busy bike lane here. Hopefully it stays there. The bike lane, that is. Monk School of Global Affairs. Maybe you've heard of it. I think they host a series of talks with well-known figures. All right, approaching St. George, got a huge crowd here of students looking like they're making their way home after class, perhaps. A lot of the apartment buildings along St. George, north of Bloor, are full of students. And a lot of the old century houses actually are divided up into apartments or rooming houses, also for students. So it might look like a big old mansion, but chances are it's just a fancy looking old apartment building. And St. George subway station is also right up ahead. I think that's probably where a lot of these people are actually heading to the subway station.
That was a whole person. You're such a...
This is an interchange station, so they can either get on line 1 or line 2 here. Yeah, that's where the crowd was headed for the most part.
Doing Waterloo.
Guys, you can do anything, right? Yeah, also like $75 in the shop. Yeah.
Very leafy around here. There's some fraternity houses you can see across the street. And you have the apartment buildings. A lot of these apartments also have very long-time residents who are now senior citizens who've lived in there for decades, I think, in rent-controlled units. It's a large doggy. So you have a mix of long-time residents and the university crowd. The Annex area is one of the most sought-after neighborhoods in the whole city. And you have some neat apartments around here dating from the 1960s, which have this space age sort of look to them. This architect at the time was making a name for himself designing these futuristic looking apartment buildings, and Toronto got a bunch of them scattered around the city, but a few of them are located in the Annex. I think that architect's name was Uno Pre, if I'm remembering correctly. Here's another fraternity house. And another one here. I wonder if they have some wild parties like you see in the movies. I don't think Greek life is all that prevalent in Canadian universities as it is in the US, but we do have it to a certain degree, I think, in certain universities. And up ahead is an apartment building that looks eerily similar to the one I live in a different part of downtown on the east side, nowhere near here. But I have a suspicion that it was maybe designed by the same architect, who I don't know. And you can see it up ahead there. That apartment building popping up. That one's in better condition than mine, though, I think. Mine's in a neighborhood that didn't have the best of reputations, and still doesn't for the most part. Whereas this area has been kept up very well, obviously. It's a more well-to-do area right near the U of T campus. Although my neighborhood is near the TMU campus, but it's not quite the same thing. But this building is a bit different, as it still has balconies. In my building, the balconies that it used to have were removed. And that balcony space was basically enclosed to become just part of the unit. So maybe there's a bit more square footage in the apartment itself. than it had before, but now I just have a bank of windows to stare out and no balcony of any sort. And there's another building the next street over from mine that also looks very similar. I think all three were by the same builder or same architect. I haven't noticed any more though, just those three. Yeah, this one definitely looks like it's in way better condition than mine. Mine's not like a dump or anything, but it's very basic. And all the units in mine were basically converted to being bachelors. I think it was a mix of 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms and whatnot when it was first constructed. But eventually all the units, for the most part, were converted into very small bachelor apartments. With a few 1 bedrooms, I think, down at the bottom. It's a very inexpensive place to live, so I've been living there for 15 years now. And I'm currently only paying $860 a month, all inclusive, so that's dirt cheap by today's standards for a downtown apartment in Toronto, even if it is in a so-called sketchy neighborhood. There's a nice older apartment building. And another one next door. Looks like we've got a printer up for grabs here. And a table. And what's left of a bike. All right, we're almost at the end of St. George, the northern end. The southern end is at College Street. And once you cross College, it becomes Beverly. And it runs directly through the U of T campus, south of Bloor. So we emerge onto DuPont, walking past Gabby's Groceries. There are lots of turrets in this part of town, as you notice, all throughout the Annex neighborhood. It's sort of known for that. All right, now we'll just head to Davenport. Got some storefronts here. this will take us to Hazelton. Some would argue that Hazelton, the part I'm walking to, is not actually within downtown since it's north of Bloor Street. But some definitions also include the Yorkville area as part of downtown. So I guess that's what I'm going with for this walk. If Yorkville isn't downtown, it's literally right beside it, or immediately adjacent to it. New buildings on the rise here, and off in the distance you can see One Bloor West towering over everything now. Sometimes traffic on this part of Davenport can be completely bonkers.
Oh, that, well, what they did was they took one elevator.
All right, crossing Bedford. A straight shot down to the CN Tower there. And the next major street is Avenue Road. We're going to cross from the Annex into Yorkville along the northern boundary here. See if I can make this light before it changes. And I made it. There's a look down Avenue Road. Also very busy right now. I can see Ken's Flowers across the street, still hanging on. And Hazelton Avenue is coming up. Lots of boutiques and galleries and upscale medical offices and that sort of thing along this part of Davenport here. Lawyers, Davenport Law Group. Caters to a very upscale clientele, as does the whole Yorkville area. All right, here we go. Right off the bat, you can tell how nice this street is here. As far as residential streets go. And this very upscale condo here on both sides, actually. These are very upscale mid-rises. Sort of welcoming you onto Hazelton. These are old 19th century townhouses for the most part, with a few modern ones mixed in. A lot of them are attached, are row houses, some are semi-detached, and some are fully detached, and those ones obviously are going to be the most expensive if you're looking to buy. But even a unit in a row is still going to cost you a few million, a couple million at least, on this street. And in peak autumn, obviously this looks awesome here. I think it looks pretty nice with the current state of greenness though. Here's one of the smaller homes here, almost look like a little cottage style. Here we have some very handsome row houses or townhouses. Yorkville was once a separate village from the city of Toronto. Had its own town hall and the whole shebang. It was eventually annexed by the city of Toronto, though. The old town hall and the old fire hall and library and all that are still in use today. The old buildings. And I like how the brick in lots of these houses is in different shades and different colors too. It's not all the same shade of brown or anything like that. Got some of the yellow brick, which is less common in Toronto. And you can see how close we are to the skyscrapers of the Yonge and Bloor area. And Yonge Street itself is over that way. And the heart of Yorkville Village is just a short walk to the south of here, along Yorkville Avenue and Cumberland Street, with all the shops and restaurants and nightlife. This is a very nice row of old homes here. I prefer the row house type housing over the detached housing. It just seems more appropriate in a dense inner city area. You can see these two might look different, but they're still attached together, right? It's not a typical row house, but they are attached together. And this one is absolutely enormous. I think it's a semi-detached. It's a huge semi-detached. Each side is like a mansion on its own. And once we get closer to Yorkville Avenue, the street starts to take on a more commercial sort of character. The old houses start becoming things like galleries and boutiques. I think that squirrel dropped something on me as I was walking past, or another squirrel perhaps dropped something on me. It hit me on my arm. Some of these apartments here. Everything just looks too nice not to show on camera. I keep turning around and wanting to show what's on every side of the street. I really like this one. And this stands out. It's not brick in a very bricky part of town. Some galleries here. Skyscrapers looming. And this walkway will take you to the Yorkville Village Mall, which fronts onto Avenue Road. It's like a small upscale shopping mall. Got lots of galleries, fine art, boutiques. And going back in time, this was lots of coffee houses and things of that nature. Back when Yorkville was a sort of a hippie haven. Along Hazelton here on Yorkville Avenue. There are a few plaques around the neighborhood sort of commemorating those days and some of the famous names who used to kind of play music here before they were famous. We have the Hazelton Hotel as we approach Yorkville Avenue. Taking us right into the heart of Yorkville Village here. And I can see my camera is in the red. The battery is near the end of its life, so I better start to wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed the walk starting at the U of T campus. We took a walk along Philosopher's Walk, up to Bloor, over to St. George, took a walk along St. George, and eventually made our way here to Yorkville, walking down Hazelton, which I think is arguably the most beautiful residential street within the downtown area. Top 5, most definitely. So leave a comment down below if you agree or if you don't. Let me know your thoughts, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Also, be sure to hit that notification bell, that way you won't miss any of my videos. And if you'd like to support the channel, there are links in the description where you can do so via PayPal, as well as via my merch store, or you can also support the channel by becoming a channel member, or by sending a super thanks if you prefer. And you can find me on Instagram also under K Continuum. So thanks for watching, and thanks to all the channel members. And be sure to keep checking back, because as always, I will continue.